With winter approaching, a woman in Warren County is concerned she might not be able to heat her home during the coldest months of the year. Our Tessa Bentulin is here to explain what's causing her stress. Tessa, good afternoon.
Well, good afternoon, Mark. Kerosene shortage is the problem here. It's happening all across the Northeast, actually. And for Hilda Vanderwalker out in Pottersville, this is the first time she's ever had a problem in the nearly 30 years she's used kerosene as her heating source. The war in Ukraine, supply chain issues, and inflation are all to blame for the shortage of kerosene and many types of home heating fuel, and there's not an immediate end in sight to any of these problems. Hilda tells us she's living on Social Security, and she says it's going to be too expensive to switch to propane. She recently called her kerosene supplier, Hometown Oil, to top off her tanks, and they told her they would love to, but they have none. She says Hometown Oil told her there was none available at the Port of Albany, and it's been that way for a few months.
What are people in the North Country going to do? A lot of us have mobile homes up here, and they have tanks that are outside, so you have to have kerosene because the fuel oil will gel up.
And Hilda's neighbors are also worried. One neighbor wanted to do an interview with us, but was not able to make it. However, she was so desperate to get the word out, she wrote us a letter. We'll tell you all about that at 5 o'clock. Mark?
No easy solution. Thanks, Tessa.
That ongoing war in Ukraine continues to create economic problems right here in the U.S. First, it was gas prices. Now the price of home heating fuels skyrocketing, and some petroleum products like kerosene are nearly impossible to find.
It's especially tough on people in the North Country and parts of New England who rely solely on kerosene to heat their homes. Our Tessa Bentulin joins us to explain that this issue has been going on for months. Tessa.
Well, Rachel, Lane, this is really a challenge for people without a basement. They have outside storage tanks and need to use kerosene because it doesn't freeze. But one Warren County kerosene distributor says he hasn't been able to get his hands on kerosene, and most of his fellow suppliers are in that same boat. Apparently, it's been a problem for months with no shipments coming into the Port of Albany. But with the temperatures dipping and the thermostats kicking on, kerosene users are feeling the heat. Users like Hilda Vanderwalker says she made a call to her supplier, Hometown Oil Company, to come up to her home in Pottersville and top off her fuel tanks, but they told her they can't do anything for her because there's none available. Hilda's neighbor is also concerned. She was not able to do an interview with us, but she was so desperate to explain her fear about if or when it will become available, she wrote us a letter that Hilda shared with us.
I would like the supply there when we need it and not to have this stress. I'm a cancer survivor and have been through a lot, and I don't need any more stress than I've already got. My heart went into my throat, and I'm thinking, you know, what are people going to do up here without kerosene to heat their homes for the winter?
Now, we know the war in Ukraine and inflation play a role in the price of just about everything, including petroleum products. But there is one more factor that will go into how much you'll be paying this winter. And here's a hint. We'll talk to meteorologist Paul Cayano about that at 6. Elaine and Rachel.
All right, Tessa.
Good evening, Mark. Kerosene is essential if you don't have a basement and need to use outside fuel tanks. That's because it won't freeze, but it's not easy to get, and even if you find it, it's expensive. And unfortunately, most of the factors driving the cost are out of our control.
Are really beautiful.
Hilda Vanderwalker has relied on kerosene to heat her home for nearly 30 years. She's never had a problem until now, when her distributor told her,
"Can't do anything for you because we can't get it." I said, "Well, what do you mean you have no kerosene?" He said, "There is none available at the Port of Albany."
A lot of kerosene distributors are in the same boat. There's a shortage of many petroleum products due in part to the war in Ukraine and supply chain issues.
My heart went into my throat, and I'm thinking, you know, what are people going to do up here without kerosene to heat their homes for the winter?
Even if you can find it, kerosene is expensive, just like everything else these days. And it could get worse, depending on what Mother Nature has in store. Newschannel 13 meteorologist Paul Cayano says while we've had several warm winters, there's no guarantee that trend will hold.
It could be a double whammy because then you're getting hit by the higher prices as well as the colder temperatures, so that wouldn't be good this winter for home heating.
Hilda is already worried, not only because of the colder months, but because her daughter Robin, who lives with her, has health issues.
You know, if there's a time that comes that the oil bills are empty, and she won't be able to get kerosene at that time. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I'm concerned about that.
And tomorrow, 13 Investigates takes a deeper look into the kerosene shortage and what solutions there might be. Mark.
We'll look forward to that.